appointing a monk by the name of Maha Kassapa as the disciple foremost in austere ascetic practices and his third most preeminent disciple. So inspired by Padumuttara Buddha, Vedaha invited the Buddha and his retinue to his home for their meals on the following day. So when the Buddha and his monks were eating, Vedaha noticed that the monk Maha Kassapa was walking the streets on alms round, pinta cara. Vedaha invited the elder to partake of his alms at his home. Now, when Maha Kassapa refused, he took the elder's bowl and filled it with fragrant fruit and handed it back to him. He then questioned the Buddha as to why Maha Kassapa had not accepted his invitation to come to his home for meals. Now, Buddha Muttara then explained that many world cycles ago, so even further back than this Buddha, Maha Kassapa had aspired to be foremost in austere practices, and that in keeping with his aspiration, he only accepted food obtained by going on alms round. Now, Vedaha was suffused with happiness and inspired by Maha Kassapa. He decided that he too would like to be declared as among foremost in austere practices and the disciple of a future Buddha. Now, offering the Buddha and his retinue of monks, meals, and the requirements or requisites for 7 days, he prostrated himself in front of the Buddha and aspired to be the monk foremost in austere practices as the disciple of the future Buddha. Seeing that Vedaha would fulfill this aspiration, the Buddha declared that at the time of Gotama the Buddha, Vedaha would be known as Maha Kassapa and would be declared the third most preeminent monk and foremost in austere practices. Now, the relationship between Gotama the Buddha and Kassapa started many lifetimes ago. The Jataka stories document 19 births in which Kassapa was related to the Bodhisattva, sometimes as his father, sometimes as his brother, and often as his teacher or friend. As such, the immediate bond that formed when Kassapa saw the Buddha had deep roots. Now, Kassapa also renewed his aspiration in the presence of succeeding Buddhas and performed many meritorious deeds over countless years. As foretold, Kassapa fulfilled his aspiration at the time of Buddha Gotama. And of course, the Buddha appointed Kassapa foremost among the monks who persevered in austere practices. The Buddha repeatedly praised Kassapa's commitment to austere practices and his detached behavior. He said, when Kassapa goes among families, his mind is not attached, not caught up, not fettered. He thinks, let those who want to gain acquire gain. Let those who want merit do merit. He is pleased and glad at the gains of others, just as he is pleased and glad at his own gains. Such a monk is fit to go among families. Now, when he preaches the doctrine, he will not do so for the sake of personal recognition and praise, but for letting them know the teaching of the Exalted One, so that those who hear it may accept it and practice accordingly. He will preach it because of the excellence of the teaching and out of compassion and sympathy. So from this source given at the bottom, relatives and disciples of the Buddha, the URL is given at the bottom. This is quoted as saying it's from the Samyutta Nikaya. Now, at this juncture, I'd like to just mention a little bit about merits. One of the effects of, or rather one of the qualities of the enlightened Sangha, that means the Arya Sangha, as given in the 9 qualities, when you reflect or when you chant the Itipiso, Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāva Sankho and the rest, all 9 qualities of the Arya Sangha are listed. Towards the end of it, number 9 is talking about the incomparable field of merit to the world. So the Arya Sangha, the members of the Arya Sangha make themselves available to the masses, people like us, the laity, for us to make merit. And how do we make merit? We provide offerings, and towards the end of the bottom end of the 9 qualities of the Arya Sangha are listed, worthy of gifts, worthy of offerings, and so on. So all these, that's why Maha Kassapa and all those like him deliberately doesn't want to accept invitations to people's homes to accept. Usually, go to people's home means usually they are rich people, but he makes himself available. He walks the street so that the not so well-to-do have a chance to do dana to him, and thereby, if with a wholesome mind and a wholesome offering, that they too get a chance to earn some merits, and it will be to their long-term welfare. Okay, so this is some aspect of it also. Now, Maha Kassapa's relationship to the Buddha. Notice at the bottom, the source of this particular write-up is different from the previous page. Maha Kassapa, Father of the Sangha, by Helmut Hacker. Helmut Hacker, a German compiler, has compiled many life histories of many disciples, not just Maha Kassapa, also Sariputta, Moggallana, Ananda, and so many others. And many of Helmut Hacker's work has been compiled, recompiled by Bhikkhu Bodhi and published under Wisdom Publications. So the thick book, which you find the lives of the great disciples and so on, often people say, oh, by Bhikkhu Bodhi, is actually not by Bhikkhu Bodhi, actually it's by Helmut Hacker and other authors, but Bhikkhu Bodhi has re-edited them and recompiled them into one volume. Okay, this is just for your information. The URL is given under Wheel Publication 345. Now, Maha Kassapa's relationship to the Buddha. The earlier account has shown that there was a deep inner relationship between Kassapa and the Buddha. Now, as mentioned already, the relationship has its root in their past lives. So even in this write-up, also there's mention of the past life as in the other write-up. So according to the Jataka stories, Kassapa was connected to the Bodhisattva in 19 existences. And here is given the in brackets, Jataka 155, 432, and so on. And even as his brother, the 2 Jataka links numbers are given. Unfortunately, in this better write-up, he didn't say often as his friend or teacher, so no reference to the Jataka tales. Of course, to look through all the Jataka stories is not so easy to find which one is talking about which character during Buddha Gotama's time. But based on this, you need to be familiar with some of these stories, which I will give you the link and you can read it up by yourself in the later slides. So from Kassapa's final life, many conversations were reported between the Buddha and this disciple. It happened on 3 occasions that the master spoke to him. Exhort the monks, Kassapa. Give them a discourse on the Dhamma, Kassapa. Either I, Kassapa, should exhort the monks, or you. Either I or you should give them a discourse on the Dhamma. And the one in bracket is probably from the Samyutta Nikaya, chapter 16, sutta number 6. This is a different reference system. I didn't convert it to the more current way of addressing the suttas, but this coding, you can actually do some internet search. You can find out which particular sutta name is pointing at. So these words imply a high recognition of Kassapa's ability, because not every Arahat has the capacity to expound the teaching well and effectively. Now here, this page references the various Jatakas as given in the earlier page. And here I mentioned the Jatakas by the name, and on the right are the reference to a particular website called the jatakatales.com. And of course, Kassapa as the Bodhisattva's brother, the 2 references, the Bisa Jataka. Okay, so from here, from these links, you can get hold of them and have a read and find out what is going on within this particular Jataka, to be familiar with this Jataka. in case the exam questions require to cite some of the Jatakas and some of their contents. Now, the commentary raises here the question why it was Kasyapa who was placed by the Buddha on an equal footing in this respect and not Sariputta and Mahamoggallana. Now, note this is from the commentary. Commentary means is the monastics commenting on the actions of the Buddha after the Buddha has passed away. So these are venerables. Some of them could be a few hundred years after the Buddha has passed away. Now, the Buddha did so, says the commentary, because he knew that Sariputta and Mahamoggallana would not survive him, but Kasyapa would. So, as you know, the life history of Buddha Gotama, Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahamoggallana passed away before the Buddha. And Maha Kassapa actually passed away many years after the Buddha. Now, it could also be that both Sariputta and Mahamoggallana were no longer alive at that time. The Buddha had highly praised Kasyapa's ability as an exponent of the Dhamma. There were 3 occasions when Kasyapa hesitated to instruct the monks after being asked by the Buddha to do so. He did not refuse because he wanted to avoid the effort and distraction of teaching, but because he found that those particular young monks were unresponsive to his admonitions. In the first of the 3 instances, Kasyapa said that it had now become difficult to speak to some of the monks. They were not amenable to advice, were intractable, and did not accept admonitions with respect. He had also heard that 2 monks boasted of their skill in preaching, saying, "Come, let us see who will preach more profusely, more beautifully, and at greater length." Now, it's interesting. Clearly, those 2 monks who were talking about this aspect, definitely they were not arahats because of their indication that they are what they call, even the first stage of sainthood that have lesser eye. These monks seem to have a lot of eye in their personality. When the Buddha was informed about this by Kasyapa, he had these monks summoned and brought them back to reason, making them give up their immature conceit. Hence, we can see that Kasyapa's negative report turned out to be a benefit to those monks. It was not done just for criticizing others. Now, on the second occasion too, Kasyapa did not wish to instruct monks who were not amenable to admonishment, who lacked faith in the good, who lacked shame and fear of wrongdoing, who lacked energy and understanding as to the good. This was a statement in general about a certain section of the monks, without reference of individuals. Now, of these monks, Kasyapa said further that in their state of decline, they are like the waning moon that daily loses in beauty, which is actually indicating of confidence, in shame, in fear of wrongdoing, in energy, and in wisdom. Now, for most of us, we should be familiar. Confidence means saddha or faith. Shame and fear of wrongdoing, the Pali words hiri and otapa, which are very important in us practicing the precepts and lifting ourselves out of wrongdoing and so on. In energy, viriya, it means we have to put in effort and energy in our practice. And then, of course, in wisdom, panya, making the right choices and so on. Also, on the third occasion, the Buddha asked Kasyapa to instruct the monks, and Kasyapa expressed his reluctance for the same reason as before. It seems that this time too, the Buddha did not urge Kasyapa to change his mind and admonish the monks, but he himself spoke of the reasons for their conduct. Now, formerly, Kasyapa, there were elders of the order who were forest dwellers, living on alms food, wearing rag robes. I presume you are familiar with the aspect of wearing rag robes. Even the ascetic Gotama and later the Buddha, before allowance for katina and so on, the Buddha himself was following this age-old tradition of ascetics in which they wear red robes. So during the early days, no one offered cloth or robes to the monks or to these renunciates, whether Buddhist or non-Buddhist. Their robes, the cloth actually came from the charnel ground, those white pieces of cloth used to wrap dead bodies who were not cremated and so on. These ascetics would normally wash it, dye it with certain natural dyes, and then sew it together, join pieces together to make robes. Only at a very much later date where offering of cloth is allowed. Today, we don't normally offer cloth. We normally, many of us, if we say robe offering, we already buy ready-made robes. Those katina, normally, the katina chivra means robes. Normally, they offer white cloth, a long spread of white cloth, which later has to be dyed, cut into smaller pieces, what commonly we refer to it as the paddy field pattern, designed by Venerable Ananda, then joined back together to make the robes. Now, using only the threefold set of robes, having few ones and being contented, living secluded and aloof from society, energetic, and they praised and encouraged such a way of life. So when such others or younger bhikkhus visited a monastery, they were gladly welcomed and honored as being dedicated to the practice of the Dhamma. Now, this portion of the statement is very, very important because this practice clearly are observed by the lay people. The lay people know what those monks are doing, whether in the forest or not, because these monks will come out of the forest, visit the nearest village, go for alms round and so on, and they will see how these monks behave, how they wear their robes, how they walk, whether they're chit-chatty or scold people or what, that means their behavior. So when the people see that they are very orderly, they are very well behaved, of course the lay people cannot see whether these monks are arahats or not, but they can only see from their behavior. Now, then those who thus welcome and honor these noble monks would also strive to emulate them in their ways of life, and this would be of great benefit to them for the long time. So it is by this example that these dedicated monks that they show their behavior as well to the lay people. The lay people see them, they will also want to emulate them, they want to look up to these monks and not just in their way of life, but also willing to listen to these monks when they teach and so on. And therefore, it encourages people to uplift their own lives by this example of these austere monks. Now, but nowadays, Kassapa, those who are honored when visiting a monastery are not monks of austere and earnest life, but those who are well known and popular and are amply provided with the requisites of a monk. These are made welcome and honored, and their hosts try to emulate them, which will bring them harm for a long time. Hence, one will be right in saying that such monks are harmed and overpowered by what does harm to a monk's life. Now, on another occasion, Kassapa asked the Buddha, what is the reason that formerly there were fewer rules? Fewer rules means the precepts observed by the monk. Okay, the patimokkha or the precepts observed by monks were non-existent in the early years of in the formation of the Bhikkhu Sangha, because the quality of the candidates joining to become Buddha's disciples were of high quality. They will have high moral standard. There were no rules required. Only as here indicated, formerly there were fewer rules. So as time went on, the quality of the candidates joining, becoming monks, disciples of the Buddha, the quality dropped. There were new rules were added. So the Vinaya or the precepts observed by the monks grew in number over time. So here, Maha Kassapa, Venerable Maha Kassapa is observing that formerly there were fewer rules, but more monks were established in the knowledge of arahatship. While now there are more rules, but fewer monks are established in the knowledge of arahatship. And the Buddha gave the reason. So it happens, Kasyapa, when beings deteriorate and the true Dhamma vanishes, then there are more rules and fewer arahats. There will be, however, no vanishing of the true Dhamma until a sham Dhamma arises in the world. But when a sham Dhamma arises in the world, there will be more rules and fewer arahats. Sham Dhamma means that which is not Dhamma. Okay, wrong interpretation and people forwarding their own ideas and views, not the word of the Buddha. Now, but Kasyapa, it is not the catalysm of the four elements, earth, water, fire, and air, that makes the Dhamma disappear, nor is the reason for its disappearance similar to the overloading of a ship that causes it to sink. It is rather the presence of 5 detrimental attitudes that causes the obscuration and disappearance of the Dhamma. So nothing to do with the 4 elements and so on, but the attitudes, that means people are the cause. So these are the 5. It is the lack of respect and regard for the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, the training, and for meditative concentration on the part of monks, nuns, male and female lay devotees. Now here notice the 4 groups are mentioned, monks, nuns, male lay devotees, and female lay devotees. Now this group of 4 are known as the Chatu Parisa. Chatu means 4, Parisa means 4 assemblies. Okay, the assembly of 4. These are not known as the Chatu Sangha, that means 4-fold Sangha. Anybody who mentions the monks, nuns, male and female lay devotees as the 4-fold Sangha, that is wrong. The word Sangha is reserved for use of monastics. That means the monastics comprise only monks and nuns, not male and female lay devotees. Okay, please note this. So this group of 4 in Pali are called the Chatu Parisa. Now, but so long as there is respect and regard for those 5 things, the Dhamma will remain free of obscuration and will not disappear. So it deserves to be noted that according to this text, the male and female lay followers are also preservers of the Dhamma. We may conclude from this that even when the Dhamma has come to oblivion among the monks or monastics, it will still remain alive when honored and practiced by the laity. Now, other discourses in the Kasyapa Sangyutta. Now, as you know, Sangyutta, Kasyapa Sangyutta is a chapter on Kasyapa, questions or lectures given to Kasyapa. Sangyutta means is from the Sangyutta Nikaya, which is part of the Sutta Pitaka. The Sangyutta Nikaya is a collection to do with arranged by topics. So there are different topics. This particular chapter happens to be something to do with Kasyapa. The more famous Sangyutta is that of the Satya Sangyutta, the chapter on truth, in which the first sermon, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, is found in this Satya Sangyutta, which is part of the Sangyutta Nikaya. So other discourses in its Kasyapa Sangyutta deal chiefly with Maha Kassapa's austere way of life, which was highly praised and commended by the Buddha. But on one occasion, the Buddha reminded Kassapa that he had now grown old and that he must find his coarse, worn-out rag robes irksome to use. Therefore, the Buddha suggested he should now wear robes offered by householders, accept also their invitations for alms offerings, and live near him. But Kassapa replied, "For a long time, I have been a forest dweller, going the alms round and wearing rag robes, and such a life I have commended to others. I've had few wants, lived contented, secluded, applying strenuous energy, and that too I have commended to others." The Buddha asked, "But for what reason do you live so?" Kassapa replied that he had 2 reasons: his own well-being here and now, and his compassion for later generations, which when hearing about such a life, would emulate it. Then the Buddha said, "Well spoken, Kassapa, well spoken. You have lived for the happiness of many, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit and welfare of gods and men. You may then keep to your coarse rag robes, go out for alms, and live in the forest." Now, this our Kassapa said, the Buddha is satisfied with whatever robes, alms, food, lodging, and medicine he obtains. For the sake of those, he will not do anything that is unbefitting for a monk. If he does not obtain any of these requisites, he is not perturbed. And when he obtains them, he makes use of them without clinging or infatuating, not committing any fault, aware of possible dangers, and knowing them as an escape from bodily affliction. So by the example of Kassapa, or by one who equals him, I will exhort you monks, thus admonish you should practice in the same way. So the Buddha also encouraged emulating the example of Maha Kassapa. The Buddha also mentioned that Kassapa was likewise exemplary in his relationship in relation to the laity. When going among families on his alms rounds or on invitation, he did not think wishfully that people may give amply and give things of quality, that they may give quickly and respectfully. He had no such thoughts, but remained detached, like the moon that shades its mild light from a distance. So when Kassapa goes among families, his mind is not attached, not caught up, not fettered. Let those who want gain acquire gain. Let those who want merit do merit. He is pleased and glad at the gains of others, just as he is pleased and glad at his own gains. Such a monk is fit to go among families. And so on. But the strongest recognition of Maha Kassapa's achievement, the highest praise given him by the Buddha, may be found in the sutta, where it is said that Maha Kassapa could attain at will, just like the Buddha himself, the 4 fine material and the 4 immaterial meditative absorptions, the cessation of perception and feeling, and could also attain the 6 supernormal knowledges, abhinya, which include the supernormal powers and accumulate in the attainment of Nibbana. Now here, his powerful meditative achievements, equaling those of the Buddha, appear as a characteristic trait of Maha Kassapa's mind. It was because of that deep meditative calm that he could adapt himself unperturbed to all external conditions and live as one of few ones, materially and socially. Now, in his verses preserved in the Theragatha, Maha Kassapa praises again and again the peace of the jhanas. He was one who went from abundance to abundance. In his lay life, he had lived in the abundance of wealth and harmony. After all, he was a rich man's son. As a monk, he dwelt in the abundance of jhanic experience, furthered by his former life in the Brahma world. So while in some of the texts he appears to be very severe, this should not lead us to believe that he was harsh by nature. So when occasionally he rebuked others in stern words, he did so for pedagogical reasons, that means teaching purposes, in order to help them. This we shall see especially when he deals with his relationship to Ananda. Now, Maha Kassapa's great contribution. Kassapa's greatest contribution to the preservation of Dharma occurred after the parinibbana of the Buddha. Now, of the Buddha's great disciples, only Ananda and Anuruddha were present in Kusinara when the Buddha passed away, as Sariputta and Moggallana had both passed away prior to the Buddha. Kassapa, with his retinue of monks, was traveling towards Kusinara from Pava when they met an ascetic who had with him a Mandarava flower. Now, as this plant grows in the heavens, Kassapa knew that something unusual had occurred. He asked the ascetic if he knew anything about the Buddha, and the ascetic confirmed that the Buddha had passed away a week prior. He said that the gods and the Mala kings were paying their respects to the Buddha with incense and flowers. Means this Mandaraiva plant, he said, had been taken from the cremation site. So when the monks heard of the Buddha's passing away, all who had not attained arahatship started to lament and cry. But there was one monk named Subhada who addressed the other monks and said, "Enough, friends, do not grieve, do not lament. We are well rid of the great ascetic. We have been in trouble by his telling us this is good, this is not good. Now we can do what we like, and we do not have to do what we don't like." So the text does not indicate Kassapa's response to these cruel words. Kassapa may have remained silent so as not to cause discord among the monks. Instead, he consoled the grieving by reminding them of the truth of impermanence that the Buddha had taught. Kassapa, however, noted this incident, for he cited it when he gathered the Arahats for the first Sangha Council. Now, Kassapa had made a mental aspiration that the funeral pyre would not light until he and his retinue of monks reached Kusinara. So it's actually recorded in the Maha Parinibbana Sutta that the people around the funeral pyre were trying to light up to cremate the Buddha's body, but they could not do so. So from this particular note, it's indicated that Maha Kassapa used his psychic power to stop the burning. In keeping with this aspiration, the sandalwood would not light. When Kassapa and his monks arrived, the wood shifted to expose the sacred foot of the Buddha. Now, with bowed head, Kassapa and his retinue paid homage to the Buddha, after which the sandalwood pyre caught fire. Now, after the cremation and the distribution of the Buddha's relics, Kassapa concentrated his efforts on the preservation of the Dhamma. Remembering Subhada's challenge and the possibility of moral laxity and the decline of the Dhamma, he proposed holding a Sangha council where the Dhamma and rules of the Sangha, the Vinaya, would be reviewed. Now, when he shared his views with the other members of the noble order, they agreed. So for the first Sangha council, Kassapa selected 500 members from the Sangha, all Arahats, except for Ananda. Ananda, who was known as the guardian of the Dhamma, was selected because of his retentive memory and detailed knowledge of 84,000 suttas dispensed by the Buddha and his great disciples. Upali, the former barber of the second princess, who was an Arahat, led the Vinaya as he had been declared by the Buddha as the monk foremost in the knowledge of the monastic rules, the Vinaya. All other monks were required to leave Rajagaha for the 7-month duration of the recitation. All the teachings of the Buddha and the monastic discipline were recited. The Dhamma was codified and organized. Now, the first Sangha Council was held in the capital of Rajagaha, actually just outside of Rajagaha, and in the country of Magadha, under the patronage of King Ajatasattu, 3 months after the passing away of the Buddha. Ananda, with the encouragement of Anuruddha, meditated and reached Arahatship at the dawn on the day of the first Sangha Council. He then traveled through the air using astral travel to indicate his deliverance and took his place among the other members of the council. So after the first council, the high regard that the monks had for Kassapa grew further. He was seen as the head of the order, even though the Buddha had specifically declared that there would be no successor, and that when he was gone, the Dhamma would be their teacher. Now, before his death, Kassapa handed the Buddha's bowl to Ananda as a symbol of the continuation of the faithful preservation of the Dhamma. Kassapa, who had generally been recognized as being the most worthy in succession, chose Ananda as being the most worthy after him. Now, the Mahayana Mahayanis have labeled that Venerable Maha Kassapa as the first patriarch and that Venerable Ananda is the second patriarch. The picture on the right on this particular page is a photograph taken at Penang Buddhist Association, Jalan Anson, Georgetown, Penang, of Venerable Maha Kassapa. Now, at the end of each of this coverage, I will show this page. This page requests you to look towards the end of this PDF notes, for the life of Ayasma Maha Kassapa. Now, Ayasma Kassapa, or Venerable Maha Kassapa, that is his given name after his ordination. His personal name, that means the name the parents give him, is Pipali. So you need to fast forward, shall we say, to the end of today's sharing for the details of the life of this venerable. For those who were in senior, you probably have seen all these notes before, so it's the same. But for those of you who didn't attend senior and didn't have exposure to these notes, I've included in this particular PDF sharing, which I will share later, after this Zoom session ends. Okay, now we move on to Ayasma Rahula. Now, most of you will know that Venerable Rahula, earlier in his younger days, he was Prince Siddhartha's son. Now, of course, many lifetimes ago, in the time of Padumuttara Buddha, both Rahula and Ratapala were rich householders of Hamsavati, who realized the vanity of riches, gave all away to the poor. One day, they entertained two ascetics of great power. The ascetic to whom Rahula ministered was in the habit of visiting the abode of the Naga king and had been impressed by its magnificence. Therefore, in returning, thanks to Rahula for his hospitality, he wished that his host might resemble this Naga. Rahula remembered this, and after that, he was born in the Naga world as this particular Naga. His friend being born as Sakha. Now, for your information, Nagas are essentially serpent-like, or in Chinese culture is known as the dragon, and Nagas can throw fire and so on. So it's a certain kind of serpent king. They dwell in a plane existence higher than the human realm, one level higher, not very high actually. And his friend born as Sakha. Sakha is very much higher in the realm of, if I'm not mistaken, Tavatimsa heaven, a few levels higher. He was, however, dissatisfied with his lot, and one day when with Virupaka, he was on a visit to Sakha. Sakha recognized him and finding out that he was dissatisfied, suggested to him a remedy. This Naga invited the Buddha to his abode. The Buddha, attended by Sumana and 100,000 Arahats, came and was entertained by him. In the company of the monks was Uparevata, the Buddha's son, seated next to him. And this Naga was so fascinated by him that he could not take his eyes off him. Discovering who he was, this Naga expressed a wish that he too might be born as a son of a future Buddha. Later, in the time of Kassapa Buddha, Rahula was born as Pattabindara, the eldest son of King Kiki, later becoming his viceroy. His 7 sisters built 7 residences for the Buddha, and at their suggestion, Pattabindara built 500 residences for the monks. Now, Rahula was the only son of Buddha Gotama. He was born on the day on which his father left the household. That means Prince Siddhartha wanted to renounce the world, and that was the day in which Rahula was born. Now, when the Buddha visited Kapilavatthu for the first time after his enlightenment, accepted King Suddhodana's invitation, Rahula's mother, Princess or Yasodhara, sent the boy to the Buddha to ask for his inheritance. The Buddha gave him no answer. And at the conclusion of the meal, left the palace. Rahula followed him, reiterating his request until at last the Buddha asked Sariputta to ordain him. Now, when Suddhodana heard of this, he protested to the Buddha and asked as a boon that in future, no child should be ordained without the consent of his parents. And to this, the Buddha agreed. To this day, in the Vinaya Pitaka, requirements for ordination requires that if your parents are still around, even though you are older than 21 years old, you still need to get the consent of your father and mother if they are still around. Okay. So it is said that immediately after Rahula's ordination, the Buddha preached to him constantly many suttas for his guidance. Rahula himself was eager to receive instruction from the Buddha, and his teachers would rise early in the morning and take a handful of sand, saying, "May I have today as many words of counsel from my teachers as there are here grains of sand." The monks constantly spoke of Rahula's amenability, and one day the Buddha, aware of the subject of their talk, went amongst them and related this particular Jataka and another Jataka to show them that in past births too, Rahula had been known for his obedience. Now, note now, this extract is from the Dictionary of Pali Names by the Professor Malasekera with the, URL given at the bottom. Now, when Rahula was 7 years old, the Buddha preached to him the Amba Balitika Rahulovada Sutta. This is from Majjhima Nikaya Sutta number 61, as a warning that he should never lie, even in fun. Rahula used to accompany the Buddha on his alms round. Sometimes he would accompany Venerable Sariputta on his alms round. He was present when Sariputta went to Venerable Sariputta's mother's house, where he was roundly abused by her for having left her. So Sariputta's mother scolded Venerable Sariputta. In fact, one occasion was when Sariputta was going back to the house, wanted to pass away there, and then again also, the mother scolded Venerable Sariputta. Now, Rahula noticed that he harbored carnal knowledges, fascinated by his own physical beauty and that of his father. The Buddha preached to him at the age of 18 the Maha Rahulovada Sutta. Two other suttas, also called Rahulovada, one included in the Samyutta and the other in the Anguttara Nikaya, form the topics of Rahula's meditation. To these suttas, Buddhaghosa, the commentator, adds the Samanera and proceeds to enumerate the different purposes which the Buddha had in view in preaching these suttas. Now later, the Buddha, knowing that Rahula's mind was ripe for final attainment, went with him alone to Andavana and preached to him the Chula Rahulovada Sutta. At the end of the discourse, Rahula became an Arahat. Now, notice on this particular page, I underline the three suttas, the Amba Balitika Rahulovada Sutta, the Maha Rahulovada Sutta, and the Chula Rahulovada Sutta. All these three are recorded in the Majjhima Nikaya. Why did I underline this? Because one of the past year questions, the question mentioned, please talk about the lessons the Buddha gave Rahula in the Rahulovada Sutta given in the Majjhima Nikaya. That particular question is rather confusing. Why? Because you notice all these suttas has got some extra words in front. All of three in the Majjhima Nikaya are Rahulovada suttas, except that the first one at the top of this page is Amba Balitika, and the second one in the middle of this page is Maha, starts with Maha, and at the bottom of this page is Chula. So which sutta was the question, the past year question referring to? I am not certain. Okay, what was in the examiner's mind? So at the following pages, I have given you links to, you can read the whole sutta for yourself, but I have given you excerpts from all three suttas. The Maha Rahulovada suttas and the Chula Rahulovada suttas are quite advanced because they talk about what they call impermanence, dukkha, and anatta. But the Ambapalitika Rahulovada, the Buddha was teaching a 7-year-old son. So the lessons there are much simpler and easier to understand. My personal thinking is that the examiner in the MBE was referring to the Ambapalitika Rahulovada Sutta. Okay, but that is just my personal opinion. I'm not too sure what the examiner had in mind. But nevertheless, the question referred to Rahulovada Sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya. But there are 3. So which one is it? Is anybody's guess. So here I give you the mention. Each of these suttas, I give you 2 sources of the sutta, one from the Access to Insight, as well as another link to the Sutta Central. You can read it for yourself. Number 4 at the bottom is actually not from the Majjhima Nikaya. The capital S, small n is Sutta Nipata, which is part of the Khuddaka Nikaya. That does not appear in the past year question. So the number 1, 2, and 3 suttas are in the may be referred to in the past year questions. Okay, short intermission. I'll be back shortly. As promised, I will go through the 3 suttas, but I give you excerpts from the sutta. But do read the whole sutta. Now, the Ambapalitika Rahulovada Sutta, instructions to Rahula, Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 61. Note that Rahula at that time was approximately 7 years old. So the lessons given here are definitely for a young child. In fact, very useful for us also. So the Buddha mentions, Rahula, when anyone feels no shame in telling a deliberate lie, there is no evil, I tell you, he will not do. Thus, Rahula, you should train yourself. I will not tell a deliberate lie, even in jest. Now, what do you think, Rahula? What is a mirror for? And for reflection, sir. In the same way, Rahula, bodily actions, verbal actions, and mental actions are to be done with repeated reflection. Now, again, the Buddha emphasizes body, speech, and mind. Now, here, the Buddha concentrates on initially on the bodily action. But what aspect of the bodily action? Here, I not just underline, but emphasize in yellow, whenever you want to do a bodily action. So before you do that bodily action, this is called whenever. So it means before doing it, you reflect on it. This bodily action I want to do, would it lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both? Would it be an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results? If on reflection, you know that it will lead to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both, it would be an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results. Then any bodily action of that sort is absolutely unfit for you to do. But if on reflection, you know that it would not cause affliction, it would be a skillful bodily action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results. And therefore, any bodily action of that sort is fit for you to do. Now, note again, the Buddha was talking to a 7-year-old child, and there was no talk about 4 noble truths, talking about the 8 noble eightfold path, but just that you use your common sense. It means even a 7-year-old can know that if you do a certain bodily action, it may cause affliction. That means it cause hurt to yourself, to others, or to both, and so on. So these kind of concepts are amenable to a 7-year-old. So in this particular bottom portion of this page, we're talking about before you do a bodily action, you should reflect. So if it is it's hurtful to yourself, to others, or to both, then you should refrain from doing it. But if it does not cause hurt to yourself, to others, or to both, it is classified as a skillful bodily action, then it is fit for you to do. So this is the way we censor or check our actions before you do it. Notice in the top of the page and the bottom half, while you are doing it, while you are doing a bodily action, you should reflect on it. So similarly, the whole reflection as given in the previous page is undergone. And bottom portion of this page, having done, that means after you have completed the bodily action, you should reflect upon it. Now, notice in the lower portion of the bottom half of this page, what they call, if on reflection, you know that it led to self-affliction, to the affliction of others, or to both, it was an unskillful bodily action with painful consequences, painful results, then you should confess it, reveal it, lay it open to the teacher or to a knowledgeable companion in the holy life. Now, this particular statement is applicable to Rahula because at the time, Rahula was a novice. Samanera Rahula. He was not venerable, but actually Samanera Rahula. And those who have renounced the world or in a monastic training system, training program, that if you break any of those precepts or if you've done any what they call unskillful bodily action, then having done such unskillful bodily actions, they should confess it, reveal it, lay it open to the teacher. So all these monks have a teacher, a preceptor, whose job is to train these monks, or if the teacher is not available at the time, to a knowledgeable companion in the holy life. That means a fellow monastic. So having confessed it, you should exercise restraint in the future. But if on reflection, you know that it did not lead to affliction, it was a skillful bodily action with pleasant consequences, pleasant results, then you should stay mentally refreshed and joyful, training day and night in skillful mental qualities. So as far as bodily action, you should reflect on it before you do it, while you're doing it, and after you have done it. And the top portion of this page, we're talking about verbal action. Whenever you want to do a verbal action, and the full list of considerations are the same as in the bodily action. And while you're doing it, and having said what you have said, you should do reflection also. And the bottom of the page, mental action. So before you think a certain thought, you need to reflect upon it, whether you want, that means you are checking on your own thoughts while you are having those thoughts, and after the thoughts have gone through your mind, having done a mental action. So you should reflect upon it. So body, speech, and mind. Now, Venerable Rahula, early in the morning, put on his robes and carrying his bowl and outer robe, went into Savatthi for alms, following right behind the Blessed One. When the Blessed One, looking back at Rahula, addressed him, Rahula, any form whatsoever that is past, future, or present, internal or external, blatant or subtle, common or sublime, far or near, every form is to be seen as it actually is, with right discernment, as this is not mine, this is not myself, this is not what I am. Just form, O Blessed One, just form, O well gone. Form, Rahula, and feeling, and perception, and fabrications, and consciousness. Now, so this, when the Rahula was about to go for Pintachara, the Buddha was walking in front, and he turned around and mentioned to his son, and talk about, give an example about form, and ask for reflection, that this is not mine, this body is not mine, this is not myself, this is not what I am. And on asking the Buddha further about, is it just form only? The Buddha replied, form, Rahula, and feeling, and perception, and fabrications, and consciousness. Now, many of you will recognize the Pali of this. Form is rupa, feeling is vedana, perception is sanya, fabrication is sankhara, consciousness is vijnana. All these five make up the five aggregates, panchakanda. Okay, that makes us we are made up of these five aggregates. So when Venerable Rahula, emerging from his seclusion in the late afternoon, went to the Blessed One and having bowed down, sat to one side. As he was sitting there, he said to him, "How, Lord, is mindfulness of in and out breathing to be developed and pursued so as to be of great fruit, of great benefit?" Now, Rahula, any form whatsoever that is past, future, or present, internal, external, and so on. Okay, the right discernment as this is not mine, this is not myself, this is not who I am. These are the five properties, Rahula. Which five? The earth property, the water property, the fire property, the wind property, and the space property. And what is the earth property? The earth property can be either internal or external. What is the internal earth property? Anything internal within oneself that's hard, solid, and sustained by craving. Head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, tendons, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, membrane, spleen, lung, large intestines, small intestine, contents of the stomach, feces, or anything else internal within oneself that's hard, solid, and sustained. Now, this is called the internal earth property. Now, both the internal earth property and the external earth property are simply earth property, and that should be seen as it is, actually is present with right discernment. This is not mine. This is not me. This is not myself. When one sees it thus, as it actually is, present with right discernment, one becomes disenchanted with the earth property and makes the earth property fade from the mind. And what is the water property? The Buddha goes through similar reflection on this aspect again. So here talks about the water property. That's watery. That's water, watery, sustained, bile, phlegm, pus, blood, sweat, fat, tears, oil, saliva, mucus, oil of the joints, urine, and anything else internal within oneself. That's water, watery, and sustained. So all these, understanding with the right discernment, this is not mine, this is not me, this is not myself. And then moving to the bottom of the page, and what is the fire property? Now, the fire property can be either internal or external. And what does it cover? That's fire, fiery, and sustained. That by which the body is warmed, aged, consumed with fever. And that by which what is eaten, drunk, chewed, savored gets properly digested, or anything else internal within oneself. That's fire, fiery, sustained. And when you understand it with right discernment, this is not mine, this is not me, this is not myself, and so on. And then moving to the next quality, the wind property. Here, anything internal belonging to oneself that's windy, and sustained. Upgoing winds, downgoing winds, winds in the stomach, winds in the intestine, winds that course through the body, in and out breathing, and anything else internal within oneself that's windy, and sustained. And through right discernment, this is not mine, this is not me, this is not myself, and so on. And towards the bottom of the page, there's reference to space property. So another characteristic of existence. Now, space property is to do with the holes of the ears, the nostrils, the mouth, the passage whereby what is eaten, drunk, consumed, and tasted gets swallowed. And where it gets swallowed, whereby it is excreted from below. or anything else internal within oneself that space, spatial, and sustain. So with proper discernment, we discern that this is not mine, this is not me, this is not myself, and so on. Now, the Buddha in this particular sutta, the Maha Rahula Sutta, goes on and talks about, encourages Rahula to develop the meditation in tune with earth, water, fire, wind, and space. Notice I put a dot. So the sutta is very much has a lot of other statements there. Now, develop the meditation on goodwill, compassion, appreciation, and equanimity. In Pali, you would know goodwill as metta, compassion as karuna, appreciation as mudita, equanimity as upeka. These four form the four Brahma Viharas. Now, develop the meditation of the unattractive, perception of inconstancy, or perception of impermanence. Then it goes on, develop the meditation of mindfulness of in and out breathing. Anapanasati lah. Mindfulness of the in and out breathing, when developed and pursued is of great fruit, of great benefit. And so on. Now, according to the commentary, Venerable Rahula at the time when this sutta was given was 18 years old. Now, when mindfulness of in and out breathing is developed and pursued in this way, even one's final in-breaths and out-breaths are known as they cease, not unknown. Now, in this particular third sutta, the Chula Rahula Sutta, the sutta in which the Buddha specially attended to Rahula, and at the end of it, Venerable Rahula attained enlightenment, became an Arahant. Now, I've heard on one occasion, the Blessed One was staying in Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Then, as he was alone in seclusion, this line of thinking arose in the Blessed One's awareness. The mental qualities that ripen in release have ripened in Rahula. What if I were to lead Rahula further to the ending of the mental fermentations? Here, mental fermentation is another way of referring to the defilements, the 10 defilements. So, having gone for alms in Savatthi after the meal, returning from his alms round, he said to Venerable Rahula, "Fetch your sitting cloth, Rahula. We will go to Grove of the Blind to spend the day." So, as he was sitting there, the Buddha said to him, "What do you think, Rahula? Is the I constant or inconstant?" Rahula replied, "Inconstant, Lord." "And is that which is inconstant easeful or stressful?" "Stressful, Lord." "And is it fitting to regard what is inconstant, stressful, subject to change as this is mine, this is myself, this is what I am?" Rahula said, "No, Lord." "What do you think? Are forms constant or inconstant?" "Inconstant, Lord." "And is that which is inconstant easeful or stressful?" "Stressful, Lord." And the sutta continues with all these aspects. Okay. This page is similarly, it goes through the whole aspect and talks about even the eye contact and so on, and go through the senses. So here in this case, to do with the eye, and the bottom portion of this page, it talks about the ear and so on. Especially towards the center of this page, bottom portion, the sutta continues with not just the ear, it talks about the nose, what they call the taste and the touch and so on. Now, towards the ending of the sutta, seeing thus, Rahula, the instructed disciple of the Noble Ones, grows disenchanted with the eye, disenchanted with forms. Disenchanted, he becomes dispassionate. Through dispassion, he is fully released. Now, with full release, there is a knowledge, fully released. He discerns that birth is depleted, the holy life fulfilled, the task done. There's nothing further for this world. And while this explanation was being given, Venerable Rahula's mind, through no clinging, okay, was fully released from the fermentations or defilement. This statement clearly says that Venerable Rahula became an arahat on listening to this. Now, obviously, this particular sutta is quite advanced. Of course, Rahula was then what they call an adult. Okay, so this page refers to the notes at the back of this particular notes I provided, which details the life of Rahula from the beginning. But clearly, I presented to you the three Rahulovada suttas found in the Majjhima Nikaya. But I think the examiners are referring to the sutta number 61, MN 61, the Ambabalatika Rahulovada Sutta. The Maha Rahulovada Sutta and the Chula Rahulovada Sutta are a little bit advanced. I believe personally, too advanced for the higher stage also. So do make sure that you know at least the first Ambabalatika Rahulovada Sutta. But you also note that you are also aware of the contents of the other two Rahulovada Suttas in the Majjhima Nikaya. Okay, we are here on Anathapindika, or his personal name is Sudatta. This particular reference has appeared in the past year question also. Now, regarding Anathapindika or Sudatta's aspiration, past life aspiration, also in the time of Padumuttara Buddha. Now, Anathapindika at that time was a householder of Hamsavati. One day, he heard the Buddha speak of a lay disciple of his as being the chief of alms givers. The householder resolved to be so designated himself in some future life and did many good deeds to that end. Now, his wish was fulfilled in this present life. Anathapindika is sometimes referred to as Maha Anathapindika to distinguish him from Chula Anathapindika. Now, Maha means great, Chula means lesser. Okay, just to note the meaning of the Pali terms. Now, note Anathapindika, according to Wikipedia and of course other sources also, Anathapindika was born Sudatta, means his parents named him Sudatta. So was a wealthy merchant, banker, philanthropist, believed to have been the wealthiest merchant in Savatthi during the time of Buddha Gotama. Now, Anathapindika was a most generous donor, not only to the Buddha and the monastic order, but also to the general public. He was particularly generous to those who were poor, destitute, and unprotected. Now, Wikipedia and other Buddhist sources also indicated as he became widely known by the nickname Anathapindika, which literally means one who gives alms to the unprotected. Now, due to his reputation of loving to give to those in need, his most significant donation was the Jetavana monastery in Savatthi. Now, which he built at great cost and where the Buddha is believed to have stayed the most number of rains retreats. Being a very wealthy merchant, he used his wealth morally and for the welfare of others in need. He was a very pious person, strictly observing the 5 moral precepts, and had entered the Buddhist spiritual path, having attained the first noble spiritual stage of stream entry. So he was a Sotapan. Now, he was quite knowledgeable and insightful about the Buddha's teachings and was able to advise others on matters related to the Buddhist doctrine, and participated in religious discussions with disciples from other religious sects. Note the source of this write-up from this Dr. Ari Oberyesekere. This is a side note. Anathapindika and his wife Punalakana had 3 daughters and 1 son. 2 of his daughters, Big Subada and Little Subada, followed in their parents' footsteps and were devoted disciples of the Buddha. They were both happily married and, like their father, had attained the first stage of sainthood, Sotapanna. Their youngest daughter, Sumana, surpassed the others in wisdom and attained the second stage of sainthood, Sakadagami. Now, she did not marry, but this was not because she had renounced the lay life. In fact, when she saw the happiness of her 2 elder sisters, she was overcome by depression, and her spiritual strength could not sustain her. She wasted away eating hardly anything and passed away at a young age. She was reborn in the Tusita heaven as a goddess amidst great comfort and pleasures. The text did not specify why she had problems in finding a suitable partner. As arranged marriages were the norm, it should not have been difficult to find a suitable partner for one who was so wealthy and spiritually advanced. Now, Anathapindika's only son, Kala, was known as the Dark One. He did not care for the Dhamma, but he immersed himself completely in affairs of business. He was completely absorbed in accumulating wealth, and Anathapindika decided to trick his son into listening to the Buddha. He offered Kala 1,000 gold pieces if he would observe the religious holiday with his family. Kala consented and soon found that it was relaxing to take 1 day off from business in the company of his family to observe religious rites. Then his father offered him another 1,000 gold pieces if he would visit the Buddha at the monastery, listen to the Dhamma, and learn a stanza of the Dhamma. Kala agreed. He went to the monastery, saluted the Buddha respectfully, and sat down to listen to the Dhamma. The Buddha, realizing that Kala was spiritually ready for the Dhamma, used his powers to make him misunderstand what he had learned. Just as Kala thought he had mastered the teachings, he had a doubt. He listened repeatedly with keen attention. Before long, Kala was inspired by the Dhamma. He listened and, raptured by the teaching, attained Sotapanna. After this, he too, like his father, was absorbed in the practice of generosity and the Dhamma, and was often called Little Anathapindika, which means jeweler Anathapindika. So he was that jeweler. And his father was called the Maha Anathapindika. Now, Anathapindika was totally committed to Dhamma, influenced many persons to follow the Buddha by his example. He did not force his ideas or beliefs on them, but seeing his devotion, kindness, and generosity, many of his friends and business associates adopted his ways. His home became a center of generosity and kindness, and his example spread to the surrounding areas. Okay, more on this, on the life of Sudatta and how he encountered the Buddha and got converted, and later his attainment of Sotapanna, as well as his efforts to purchase Prince Jeta's grove and later build the Jetavana monastery. Okay, at the end of this, the notes which I will share with you. Those of you who have attended the senior would have had these notes given already. Now, here we are moving to what I call this life of Bhikkhuni Maha Pajapati Gotami theory appeared in the senior stage. I'm just concerned that it may suddenly come into the higher cert level. So I'm presenting this aspect of it, but not the whole life, which I have as a reference towards the end, but certain aspect of it. So in this case, the aspiration. So it was in the time of Padumuttara Buddha that Pajapati had her resolve to gain eminence. She then belonged to a clansman family in Hamsavati, and hearing the Buddha assign the foremost place in experience to a certain nun, wished for similar recognition herself, doing many good deeds to that end. Now, after many births, she was born once more at Benares, 4 women among 500 slave girls. When the rains drew near, 5 Pachika Buddhas came to Nanda Mulaka, to Isipatthana, seeking lodgings. Now, Pajapati saw them after the treasurer had refused them any assistance. But after consultation with her fellow slave, they persuaded their several husbands to erect 5 huts for the Pachika Buddhas during the rainy season, and they provided them with all the requisites. At the end of the rains, they gave 3 robes to each Pachika Buddha. After that, she was born in a weaver's village near Benares, and again ministered, this time to 500 Pachika Buddhas, sons of Padu Muvati. Now, in the previous year question, the emphasis on the Bhikkhuni Maha Pajapati Gotami was the formation of the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So here, I'll give you some excerpts from this particular link from the Dictionary of Pali Names. When the Buddha was at Vesali, when Suddhodana died, Pajapati decided to renounce the world and waited for an opportunity to ask the permission of the Buddha. Now, Pajapati at that time was already a stream enterer. She attained this eminence when the Buddha first visited his father's palace and preached the Maha Dhammapala Jataka. Her opportunity came when the Buddha visited Kapilavatthu to settle the dispute between the Sakyans and the Kolyans as to the right to have water from the river Rohini. Remember, the Buddha often tried to stop wars between the Sakyans as well as the Kolyan. The Buddha himself, as Prince Siddhartha, his father was a Sakyan, his mother was from the Kolyan country. So he was a citizen, shall we say, of both countries. If you make a pilgrimage to Nepal today, you still can see river Rohini flowing. Now, when the dispute had been settled, the Buddha preached the Kalaha Vidana Sutta. The 500 young Sakyans joined the order. Their wives, led by Pajapati, went to the Buddha and asked leave to be ordained as nuns. This leave the Buddha refused, and he went to Vesali. Now, from the Kolya area, went all the way down to Vesali in the Vajrayan Republic. Is quite far. So, but Pajapati and her companions, nothing daunted, had barbers to cut off their hair and donning yellow robes, followed the Buddha to Vesali on foot. They arrived with wounded feet at the Buddha's monastery and repeated their request. Now, you must note, why did they have swollen feet and all that? Well, these people, these ladies were from rich families. They are in the courts, not the laborers and all that. So they're not used to walking long distances, not in carriages and all that. So if you walk on foot and their feet are very tender because they are rich ladies, so it's very, very tough for them. So they arrived with wounded feet at the Buddha's monastery and repeated their request. The Buddha again refused. But Ananda interceded on their behalf and the request was granted, subject to 8 strict conditions. Now, of course, there are some questions which arose later as a procedure for Pajapati's ordination, which was not formal. When the nuns discovered this, some of them refused to hold the opposata with her. But the Buddha declared that he himself had ordained her and that all was in order. Her upasampada, it means higher ordination, consisted in her accepting the 8 conditions laid down for the nuns. Now, after her ordination, Pajapati came to the Buddha and worshipped him. The Buddha preached to her and gave her a subject for meditation. With this topic, she developed insight and soon after won arahatship, while her 500 companions attained to the same after listening to the Nanda Govada Sutta. Later, at the assembly, monks and nuns in Jetapana, the Buddha declared Pajapati chief of those who had experience. Now here I give you some excerpts from the what they call life of Maha Pajapati Gotami, which is repeated towards the end of this what they call set of notes. So she felt miserable and lonely after Prince Siddhartha, Rahula, his son, and her own son Nanda, actually plus her daughter also renounced the world, and King Suddhodana had already passed away. This picture on the bottom right shows King Suddhodana holding the Buddha's hand. You remember, the Buddha was invited by King Suddhodana after his enlightenment to Balik Kampung, to Kapilavatthu, because the king had not seen his son for a long time. So when the Buddha arrived, there was no invitation given to the Buddha or his monks for dana. So the Buddha and his monks, as usual, in any place they went, they will go on Pintachara, means arms round. The king, of course, did not understand this, and was embarrassed by this situation, because he still thought his son was the prince, and the prince shouldn't go on arms round. He should go to the palace and makan. So that's why this scene, the king went down to hold the Buddha's hand and want to ask the Buddha to go to the palace for meals. And the Buddha declared that he is of the clan of the Buddha, no more the Gotama, the Sakyan clan. So his behavior and attitudes are totally different. So, of course, Pajapati Gotami approached the Buddha and asked the boon for forming the order of nuns. 3 times the Buddha turned down the request, and soon the what they call the 500 maidens gathered around her, and they also wanted to what they call follow the Buddha to Vesali. So here is mentioned, she shaved her hair and donned the yellow robe, and they walked about 150 miles from Kapilavatthu to Vesali, covered the distance on foot, and so on. The gentle feet of Maha Pajapati was swollen, and her body was covered with dust, unused to such rough conditions. And on reaching Vesali, they were thoroughly exhausted, and the march caused a great stir in the district through which they passed. So she and her 500 companions lingered at the entrance of the monastery in Vesali. And Venerable Ananda appeared. He was amazed to see his aunt in such a sorry state. He inquired what was going on, and she told him the purpose of her mission. Venerable Ananda was eminently fit to play the role of the mediator. And the Venerable Ananda requested the formation of the order of nuns from the Buddha, but the Buddha refused. Finally, Venerable Ananda asked whether it was not possible for a woman to obtain the bliss of sainthood. And the Buddha responded by saying the woman could attain as well as a man, and then consented to the establishment of the order nuns, but only on 8 conditions. Now, the purpose of this few series of slides is to show you these 8 conditions. Now, some of these conditions look very peculiar to the 21st century person, but you must note this was the reflective of the culture in India 2,600 years ago. So the conditions and attitudes towards women folk and the culture at the time is totally different from those in the 21st century. So the bhikkhuni, even if she was in the order for 100 years, must respect a bhikkhu even of a day standing. So even though the bhikkhuni has 100 vasas, but the bhikkhu has only 1 day standing, not even 1 vasa yet, he has to pay respect to the bhikkhu. A bhikkhuni should reside within 6 hours of traveling distance to and from the monastery where bhikkhus reside for advice. On observance days, that means uposatha days, a bhikkhuni should consult the bhikkhus. A bhikkhuni should spend the vasa or rains retreat under the orders of both bhikkhus and bhikkhunis. A bhikkhuni should ply her life by both the orders. A bhikkhuni should on 2 years obtain the higher ordination Upasampada by both orders, which means higher ordination by the bhikkhuni sangha as well as the bhikkhu sangha. See, the ordination of bhikkhunis are twofold ordinations. A bhikkhuni cannot scold a bhikkhu. A bhikkhuni cannot advise a bhikkhu. Rather, it should be the other way around. So when Venerable Ananda broached this news to Maha Pajapati Gotami, she was glad. She wholeheartedly accepted the conditions laid down by the Buddha. She was true to her destiny, as not long afterwards she became an arahat. So as mentioned, the other companions also listened to a sutta delivered by Venerable Nandako, and they attained arahathood also. The king of the Chavis built a residence for her and her followers at Vesali. So these Sakyan and Kolian ladies basically live in the Vajjian Republic, never balik kampung to the Second Kingdom, and they pass away there. Now, some of this particular page is important. What is her contribution? While residing in the city of Vesali, she helped many women to ordain in the Sangha who searched for freedom. She gave abundant advice and support to all bhikkhunis, and after gaining adequate training, these nuns went back to other villages and established nunneries themselves. Yasodhara Rupananda. Rupananda is Maha Pajapati Gotami's daughter. Now notice that Maha Pajapati Gotami had a son and a daughter. Both of them have the names Nanda, but the difference in the spelling of Nanda is the female Nanda or Rupananda, or sometimes also known as Sundari Nanda. Notice the A at the back, there is an A bar, Nanda. Whereas the male, the son, is Nanda, the A at the back has no bar at the top. So Nanda with a bar is usually indicative of a female, and Nanda without the bar is that of a male. So her son and the daughter are both called Nanda. And of course, many other thousands of women came to ordain under her leadership. Okay, a more detailed, life of Maha Pajapati Gotami towards the end of this set of notes. Now, Visakha, Migara Mata. Now, aspiration. During the time of a previous Sammasambuddha named Padumuttara, Visakha was born into a rich man's family in the city of Hamsavati. She watched the Buddha declaring a female disciple as the chief female disciple and the chief benefactress of the Buddha. This created an interest in her to become one and made the aspiration in front of the Buddha to become the chief female disciple and benefactress of a future Sammasambuddha. Since then, she had performed meritorious actions during innumerable lifetimes toward her aspiration, and was born during the time of Gautama Buddha to fulfill her aspiration. Now, you notice that in many of these pages, especially on the aspiration, there's repeated mention, performing meritorious actions. Now, there are many kinds of meritorious actions, but certain kinds of meritorious actions, and usually it starts with dana, and then of course the second one is sila. These two groups of meritorious actions tend to generate a lot of wholesome coming energies or punya, and which have the result of taking effect either in the balance of one's life, this life, and in the next. And if you perform a lot of it and different kinds of meritorious actions, it can also result in you being born in higher planes of existence and you stay there for a long time. And if you do even more, and you can even become Saka, the king of the Devas, and so on. So there are a lot of supportive factors. So, but unfortunately, many of these records didn't list out what kinds of meritorious actions were performed specifically by this individual or that individual. Okay, it just say that they perform meritorious actions. Of course, if anyone performs demeritorious actions, then of course adverse reactions will occur in this life or in the next life, hindrances to their progress. And meritorious actions are needed in various other suttas in terms of enlightenment. Meritorious actions are important because they are supportive of anyone hoping to gain enlightenment. Supportive, okay? Just doing meritorious actions alone cannot get you enlightened. So doing dana alone cannot get you enlightened, but they provide the supportive conditions. For you to know more about that, do check out the Saliyaka Sutta, also from the Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 41, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, Saliyaka Sutta. The Saliyaka Sutta lists out, the first portion of it lists out 10 demeritorious actions that if you were to do any of it, you will be born in a very, what they call, disadvantaged situation in future lives, if not in the lower realms. And the second portion after that will be talking about 10 meritorious actions, which is the opposite of the demeritorious actions. The famous 3-4-3, 3 on body, 4 on speech, and 3 on mind, added up 10. That if you perform that, then it's very advantageous to you. And towards the end of the sutta, the third portion of the sutta, the Buddha talks about if someone were to wish for, having done a lot of wholesome actions per the 10 meritorious actions listed in the Saliyaka Sutta, if they will have aspiration to be born in a certain plane of existence, like now you're human realm, if you've done a lot of wholesome things, may I be born in Tavatita heaven as Sakha or something like that. If you have that wish, then if you have done a lot of it, the Buddha will say it is possible. That means you have done a lot, then your actions are supportive of you being born in that realm and with that opportunity. But the most important thing with regard to enlightenment is concerned, that means attaining of Nibbana, realization of Nibbana, is the last portion of the Saliyaka Sutta, where you have done a lot of wholesome energies and you have an aspiration or wish that you may be able to gain enlightenment. And the Buddha says it is possible because all these wholesome energies you've generated previously or in this life is supportive of your walking the Noble Eightfold Path to gain enlightenment. So merits are needed for you to gain enlightenment. Okay, that's a sidetrack, just for you to know, to explain that particular aspect. Now, Visakha, qualities, virtues, and contributions. Now, Visakha was the chief female disciple as well as the chief benefactress of the Buddha Gotama. Born in the wealthy aristocratic family who were pious and generous, she was exposed to the Buddha's teaching at a very young age. Now, Visakha was wise and spiritually ready to enter the Buddhist spiritual path of liberation by attaining the first stage of stream entry at the age of 7 years old. So 7 years old, she heard the Buddha's teaching and she attained the first stage of stream entry. In her adult life, the Buddha declared Visakha as a chief female disciple and put her in charge of dealing with matters relating to the order of Buddhist nuns. Many a problem that resulted in some of amongst the nuns, the Buddha requested Visakha to help out. Although she's a lay person, but she's very respected by the community and so on. Even there was a case of a pregnant Buddhist nun. She, together with other disciples, the Buddha requested to help to resolve the matter, whether this nun is worthy to be a nun or she is wrongly accused of being pregnant. But she was pregnant at the time. So, but the real story is that she was married, then she got pregnant, but she didn't realize it, and she renounced the world. And during the early days of her as a nun, her pregnancy became more obvious to the people around. So people wondering, hey, what are these nuns doing? So the Buddha requested Visakha and other well-known monks and lay people to help to resolve the matter, which she actually did. Now, she also helped the Buddha in dealing with any issues relating to the lay community. Now, after her marriage, Visakha was able to get her in-laws, Bigara, her father-in-law in particular, who was a devotee to the set of naked ascetics, to become a devotee of the Buddha. The picture at the bottom left, the scene of where she mentioned to the venerable, the Buddhist monk who was outside the house, who was going on alms round. She said, "My father-in-law is eating stale food." And the man sitting down on the floor there eating the food, which obviously he's a rich man, definitely he's not eating stale food, but she was referring to eating stale food, not in the sense of literally eating stale food, but eating stale food because depending on the, what they call his past karma, which is considered stale. So she was speaking metaphorically. Anyway, she was also instrumental in encouraging a vast number of lay women to learn and practice the Buddha's doctrine. Among her generous donations to the Buddha and the order of monks and nuns, the greatest donation was Ubarama Monastery in Savatthi, where the Buddha is said to have stayed during 6 rainy seasons. So 6 years at this Ubarama Monastery. Also, just outside of Savatthi is the famous Jetavana Monastery, where the Buddha spent something like 19 years, 19 rainy seasons. Now, according to the Pali Canon, the Buddha has delivered a number of important discourses while residing at Ubarama Monastery. Okay, more details of Visakha, quite a long story there also at this particular, what they call, towards the end of this particular set of notes. Now, just note that Visakha has not appeared, at least I haven't found, appeared in senior or higher. This is just information in case it comes out. We cannot know what the examiners are thinking of. Okay, that's end of this afternoon sharing. Sabba papasa akaranang kusalasa upasampada sachitta paradapanang etang buddhana sasana. That we should avoid all evil, do good, purify our minds. This is the teaching of the Buddhas from Dhammapada verse 183. Now, closing Anumodana benediction, reciting the Pali. Akasatta cha bummatta deva naga mahitika punyang tang anumoditva jirang rakkantu sasanang jirang rakkantu desanang jirang rakkantu mamparan. Patidana, dedication of merits. Idang vo nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatuyo. Idang vo nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatuyo. Idang vo nyatinang hotu sukita hontu nyatuyo. Closing veneration. Arahang samma sambuddho bhagava buddhang bhagavantang abhivademi. Swakato bhagavata dhammo dhammang namasami. Supatipanno bhagavato savaka sangho sanghang namami. Sat dhammo cirang titatu. May the good doctrine long endure. Sabbe satta sukhi hontu. May all beings be happy. Okay, that's all for this afternoon. We can move on to the question and answer portion. The notes which I'll later let you download will include, as indicated earlier, the lives of the various personalities I have covered today. Many of them I've covered in the senior when I was presenting previous year. So some of you already have, but those who have not got these notes earlier, that means you're coming straight into the highest stage, then you can use it as reference. Any questions?
Yes, Brother Ananda, may I know for Venerable Rahula, when he passed into Parinibbana?
He passed away before, if I'm not mistaken, Venerable Rahula. Before Venerable Sariputta.
Oh.
So quite young. That means all the time he was a Samanera. That means he was a novice, because Vinaya rules, at least current Vinaya rules, require that you have to reach the age of 20 or 21 before you can obtain higher ordination. So he just reached around that age, then he was already an Arahat, and then he passed away. More detailed, some of the sources I gave inside there also mentioned when he passed away.
Oh, not at old age. That means at a young age.
No. He didn't live to an old age. Only two individuals in this series. No, three individuals, if not mistaken. Who is that? Venerable Maha Kassapa reached, in the text, they normally say, oh, he lived up to the age of 120 years. I don't think it's exactly 120 years. It means very, very, very old. Venerable Ananda lived up to the age of 120, according to the text, means very, very old. And let me see, who else? Maha Pajapati Gotami also reached around 120 over years. Very, very, very old. After all, she took care of Prince Siddhartha, the baby.
Yeah. And also Visakha, if I'm not mistaken, she has 10 sons and 10 daughters, according to the book.
Yeah. She also passed away at a very, very old age. Yes. The links I gave you also mentioned that.
Okay. What about one more for Rahula? One more question. Sotapati, when did he actually reach stream entry, or he went straight to Arahanthood?
I do not remember him any mention of him going through the stages. That means going through Sotapati and so on. The text, the notes and the references only indicate when the Buddha preached the Chula Rahulo Vada Sutta that he attained Arahatship. So I haven't seen any other references that show him entering the lower stages yet. Some people actually go straight. Okay, you don't have to start with 1 and then 2, then 3, then 4. People like Venerable Bahia, Bahia is one of those few people who got enlightened the fastest. The Buddha preached to him during his Pintachara. The Buddha was going on Pintachara, going arms round. This person who come from outstation suddenly appeared in front of the Buddha in the middle of the street when the Buddha was going on Pintachara, requested the Buddha to teach. The Buddha said, wrong time lah, I want to go on arms round first. But he insisted, and the Buddha said, requested 3 times, and the Buddha said, okay lah, I'll teach you. And then when he was teaching, this person was standing in the middle of the street, attained Arahatship.
Yeah, the Dharma in brief. He was just teaching the Dharma in brief.
That one very, very insightful. Bahia Sutta, if you want to read that one very, very fast. So you don't have to go through the first, second, third, or Arya stages. You can go straight. But probably you for this kind of individuals, they must have done a lot of foundational work previously to be able to understand what the Buddha is talking about.
Okay. Brother Ananda, about Anathapindika, he also has children who also gain this one, become enlightened individuals. His children also, right?
Yes. That's why I mentioned the 2. He got 3 girls and 1 son. So all 3 of them are in the Aryas. 2 of them Sotapan, 2 daughters Sotapan. 1 is second state of sainthood, and the son Kala, finally with the skillful intervention by the father and the Buddha, he also at least attained Sotapan. So once you're Sotapan, you are already guaranteed to attain Arahatship later, sooner or later.
Okay.
Anathapindika, when he passed away, he was a Sotapan also.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Brother Ananda?
Yes.
All the cases that was mentioned today, all the aspirations were made during the Buddha Padumuttara.
Yeah, I'm just curious why.
Is there any particular reason why?
I do not know. I can only quote the sources. Why is it that is the case. I do not know. Some of these are very old texts, and how accurate they are is another question mark. But these are the established what they call Buddhist information available, and that appears in the exam like that.
But the Gautama Buddha, Siddhartha
Yeah.
Gautama Buddha, he made the aspiration when he met Dipankara.
No.
No.
Okay. This topic about aspiration as to become a Sambuddha is longer than that. There is a book, if I'm not mistaken, written by Egerton Baptist on the advent of a Sambuddha. It mentions that by the time this person was practicing so intensely that by the time he met Dipankara Buddha, it was not his first time he made aspiration. Dipankara Buddha put a confirmation that this person has advanced to a suitable stage that he will definitely become a Sambuddha at a later date. So that means many lifetimes previously, he already had made an aspiration. He was just starting off at first. That book mentions what they call. He starts with an idea, and he practiced based on the idea. Later, when his practice was, he was more confident in his practice. He verbalized his idea. That means he tell people around him that he wanted to become a Sambuddha. This is way many lifetimes before Dipankara Buddha, and he progressed over the don't know how many innumerable lives. So by the time he reached Dipankara Buddha, Dipankara Buddha put a confirmation stamp and said that this person has advanced his practice so much so that he will definitely become a Sambuddha.
Then, by the time he met Dipankara, or along the way, because Dipankara in this aeon, we assume that he's the first Buddha.
No, he's not the first.
No, not the first.
Not the first. Definitely, there are other Buddhas before that also.
Okay. Then along the way, he would have attained at least Sotapan or the other stages.
Okay. In established Theravada text, now the Buddha didn't. I have not come across any suttas or lectures by the Gotama the Buddha that talk about this aspect but basically the commentarial text and the established text say that a person who aspires to become a Sambuddha, once they aim for Sambuddhahood, even if a Sambuddha appears in front of them, that means they could have listened to this Sambuddha, they could have attained arahantship in theory because they are so advanced in their practice already But this person has what they call made a very strong aspiration to himself become a Sambuddha in the future. He will not be able to attain ariyaship, even the Sambuddha is in front of him. So there have been stories in the Theravada world. One story I heard was supposedly in Sri Lanka. I don't have the details of the names of those individuals. That means in the 20th century. Some of these people that have never meditated before and was introduced to some Buddhist meditation. I don't know what kind of Buddhist meditation. So he happened to go for meditation. The first time he went for this meditation, the teacher at that meditation hall was very surprised. This person was able to advance instantly to a very advanced stage of meditation. Okay, everybody first timer normally got a lot of problem like my leg pain this one that sleepiness and all that. This person was able to go straight to the super advanced stage. Then the teacher was surprised, and the teacher decided to interview him and ask him, have you made an aspiration for Buddhahood? And this new meditator tried to recall, and he was able to say, yes, I did. And because of that, that stopped him from becoming an Arya in that life in the 20th century. So that means he was in preparation to become a Sambhosa Buddha in the future. Don't know when. Okay. This is commentarial information and some of the stories that come around. How correct they are they verified by any Sambhosa Buddha? I cannot say. So because of that, there is also some information circulating within the Buddhist community. They say that some of these individuals who have made, some people use the term aspiration, some people use the word vows to become a Sambhosa Buddha. So they may change their mind. That means after many lifetimes of practicing to become a Sambhosa Buddha, they decided, I want to give up the quest to become a Sambhosa Buddha. So they have to renounce their quest to become Sambhosa Buddha, renounce this vow. And since they are able to meditate to such an advanced state, for them to attain Aryaship is, I use a Malaysian term, kacang putih lah. Okay, they just need a little bit more and they can count him already lah. So, but by releasing themselves from their own personal vows, their own personal promise or aspiration, there's some talk in that sense. How correct it is, I cannot comment too much about it. This is what are the stories I hear here. Okay.
Okay. Then the other one, Maitreya Buddha.
Yes.
Did he also make the aspiration during Padumuttara's time?
I didn't do. I just forgot lah. I did some research on Maitreya Buddha, but I also forgot the details whether he made the aspiration then or before lah. So I can't answer that question. I think there's a book on this aspect also lah, that talk about it. What references it makes to, I'm not very sure. I have to revisit this book. It's since many years since I read this thing about Maitreya Buddha. But
and then during
whatever,
the time,
but the important thing, a lot of people say, oh, I want to be born during Maitreya's time, but so that I can get enlightened very quickly. But there's one problem with that particular idea or ideal. One is you can be born during the time of Maitreya Buddha. Suppose there is a planet Earth or a planet Earth-like, maybe not in this particular solar system, not in this galaxy, somewhere in the universe. So you can be born at the time, but you might be in the wrong galaxy. So you do get a chance to meet the Maitreya Buddha. And number two, the issue is even you are born on the same planet, you got another problem. Where are you? If you are born in what they call the Sambhosa Buddha, Maitreya was appear in something like India, and the equivalent of India in that planet, and then you are born in South America, so you also got no chance to meet the Buddha. So it takes a lot to be born and meet the Buddha. That's one. Number two, just because you are face to face with the Buddha, it does not mean you can understand what the Buddha is talking about. Why? If you read many of the stories in the suttas, narrated in the suttas, you can know that many people went to Jetavada monastery in the evenings to listen to the Buddha teach. The Buddha spent something like 19 reigns, that means 19 years in that monastery. So many evenings, many of the townspeople in Savatthi went over to the Jetavada monastery to listen. But how many of them became Aryas? It's not 100%, Okay, majority did not gain enlightenment. And there are many suttas in which the Buddha would walk very far. He surveyed the world and found, oh, in that particular village, some distance away, there's one individual who got a chance to understand my Dhamma. So he will walk, the Buddha will take the trouble to walk all the way there. But the people in that village will know that, oh, this teacher is a famous teacher. So they gather around and sit down and waiting to listen to him. But the Buddha would not start talking, Why? Because the Buddha was targeting that one individual where the Buddha surveyed the world, that the person, when the person comes, then the Buddha will start teaching. And Buddha would be teaching that person, talking so that that person can understand what the Buddha is saying, using the examples of that person's experience. One classic example is of a Jaga Lumbu guy who was late to meet up with the Buddha, but the rest of the town people were sitting in front and they're wondering why the Buddha never say anything. So the people got chance to meet the Buddha, but the Buddha was not teaching, because the Buddha knew. He opened his mouth, in one ear, out the other. So those people, although fortunate to meet the Buddha, would not be able to gain anything from the Buddha. So the Buddha was waiting for this individual, but the Jaga Lombu guy, the cowherds guy came. He listened to the Buddha. He attained at I don't know what stage of enlightenment. So there are many such suttas in the Tipitaka that describe this kind of incidents. Okay, so you can meet up with the Buddha. You're in the same kampong. You're in the congregation, but the Buddha is not talking to you. Because you have not prepared sufficiently to understand the Buddha, and the Buddha won't bother to talk to you because he can teach to the other person. You heard the teaching, but you don't understand, so you don't get anything. So back to the Maitreya Buddha. So you need to do a lot of practice, not just in terms of merits to be born in front, get a chance to meet the Buddha, but what they call well practiced enough along the Noble Eightfold Path, so that you can understand what the Buddha is talking about. And if your karma and your understanding is up to that level, when the Buddha survey the world, the Buddha will walk to you, come to you, if it's physically possible. Okay, will come to you and preach to you, even though you're in a large crowd of people, the Buddha is talking to you. Another classic case is that of the Buddha teaching a leper. The leper was going around looking for food. He's a beggar, but he's also a leper. So a lot of townspeople were gathered to want to listen to the Buddha's talk. And this leper was walking around looking for food, but nobody was serving any food. So he was standing at the back of the crowd. And then he said, since I'm there, I cannot find food. I myself listen to what the Buddha is teaching. And the next thing, the Buddha had surveyed the world, and the Buddha isolated this leper who is at the back of the hall or the area there. And the Buddha was teaching him, directly, and he attained the first stage of sainthood. The rest of the people, the big crowd there, in one ear, out the other, I would say. They got a chance to meet the Buddha, but no understanding, no enlightenment or anything. So it doesn't mean that you are in front of the Buddha, although the Buddha is very skillful, but we need to do our part. So don't think that being born in front and got a chance to meet up with Maitreya, you might be one of those people that in one ear, out the other. No point. So you have to do more work to be ready, and so that whatever your condition, the Buddha actually have you in his sights and teach you, so that you can understand and you can gain even the first stage of sainthood. Don't talk about Arahat, you can attain the first stage of sainthood already very good. Okay, so this is a situation.
I think the classical case is Upaka. Upaka met the Buddha, spoke to the Buddha. But then
But that one is an unfortunate story. Although that part of the story is only half the story. The fortunate part is he came back and met the Buddha again. And I seem to remember, I need to recheck this story. He became a venerable under the Buddha. I suspect he became enlightened also later.
Okay.
The first time he met, you're enlightened? Yeah. So what? Then he walked away. So sayang. But later he got another round, another chance to meet the Buddha. And this time I believe, maybe I should do research on him about his life. I seem to read somewhere that he became a venerable and became enlightened later.
Okay, thank you, Brother Ananda.
Yeah, welcome. Any other questions? So
you see in the Jataka tales,
yes.
Do you mind, Kevin? You go on.
Yeah, okay.
You see in the Jataka tales, when we read, it's only always the Bodhisattva is the Buddha. But it was never mentioned. I'm sure along the way there will be Maitreya in the lifetime of Gotama.
The text say that during the lifetime of Maitreya was born. I don't know his life, but he was born by the name of Ajita, and he was Venerable Ajita, was one of the Buddha's disciple.
Okay.
From my
I see.
memory lah, of what I've read about Maitreya. But of course, he
Ajita,
didn't get enlightenment lah.
not yet lah.
Not yet lah, but he was Venerable Ajita. I have to
Ajita.
check back the stories again.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I
No
take
problem,
a
no
little
problem.
bit more time. Individuals, I call it beings are like Sitigarbha.
Who?
Sitigarbha Bodhisattva.
Oh, I'm not familiar, sorry.
Sitigarbha Bodhisattva. So they make vows. But then they make vows. The vow is that when hell is empty, then he will gain enlightenment. That enlightenment is Arahan level or Sama Sambuddha?
Okay. Now, when you touch all these non-Theravada, what they call lineages, the approach to the doctrine, you cannot marry the ideas,
okay.
some of the ideas. Of course, the Four Noble Truths, the Noble Eightfold Path is still the same. But there are other fringe ideas, like especially the Bodhisattva vow and all that. In the Mahayana side, they believe that once you become an Arahat, you can still continue practicing to become a Sammasambuddha. Okay, that is the Mahayana has its roots in the Mahasangika school. Are you familiar? Have you heard of the Mahasangika school?
Yeah.
They arose in the after the Second Council. Okay, so that is their idea. Whereas if you look at the Nikayas, the Buddha clearly extols or praises the achievements of the attainment of the Arahat. Okay, attainment of the deathless. The Buddha is regarded, the Gotama, the Buddha is regarded as an Arahat also. Arahat means the person who has uprooted the 10 defilements, the Samyojanas, and because of that, once you have no more avijja in your psychic, you cannot be reborn. Okay, no avijja means cannot be reborn. You need avijja to be reborn. Karma is only the fertilizer, but the seed to be reborn is avijja in your psychic. Okay, so when you become an arahat, arahat means one of the 10 defilements is avijja. You've uprooted avijja, and because of that, you disqualify yourself from being able to be reborn. Okay.
Okay.
So Mahayana approach, Mahayana as well, the Tibetan side. In fact, Tibetan Buddhism is actually Mahayana. So actually, there are two main schools only, Theravada and Mahayana. And Vajrayana is an offshoot of Mahayana. So in these two schools, Mahayana has the idea that once you become an Arahat, you can still practice to become a Sammasambuddha. Whereas in Theravada, done what must be done, kautin, and no more rebirth. So you don't have to strive off. And sometimes the Arahat is also known as a Buddha, is also known as a Savaka Buddha. Savaka means a person becomes enlightened by listening. Savaka means to listen. Listen to who? You listen to a Sammasambuddha. So a person becomes a Savaka Buddha by hearing or learning the teachings from a Sammasambuddha. Either listening literally by the Sammasambuddha talking, or reading the books, or learning the doctrine taught by the like us now lah. We are reading the books and learning the teachings. So if we become Arahats now, we are also known as Savaka Buddha. In this case, our teacher is Gotama the Buddha lah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So you be careful lah. Don't try to make the two streams. Try to explain using Theravada ideas to explain that side. They are not compatible, and in fact, it confuses you. You see which one?
Yeah.
You either choose Theravada or Mahayana. So that's why I always advise, if you are very familiar with Mahayana, please make sure that you continue studying Mahayana. And later, once you are solidly grounded in Mahayana, then you explore what does Theravada teach. So if you are in Theravada, make sure you know what Theravada is talking about. Then you can explore what Mahayana or Tibetan Buddhism teach. Then you know the differences. That's all. So the moment a question like yours, and I've come across in public Dhamma spheres, where the person asks question, that question is loaded with 3 yanas. Theravada, Mahayana, and Theravada, all in one question. So I cannot answer the question because there are three different streams, three different idea streams. So I have to break down the why this part is like that, like that, like that. So it becomes another way of answering the question. Okay, it confuses people.
Okay.
Make sure you know one very well, strongly, then only you explore the other.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So I was saying, next week we'll talk about the 9 qualities of the Arya Sangha. That's the one where we chant the Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho, the 9 qualities.
Brother Ananda, can I ask one
Yeah,
question?
sure.
Simple question. I read the Jataka stories,
Yes.
and then usually when I read the Buddha explained here during the reign of Brahmadatta. Most of the time when I read, the Bodhisattva was born in the reign of Brahmadatta. So why is it that there are so many times that the Bodhisattva was still mentioned that it was during the reign of a certain king, the name of Brahmadatta?
I'm not too sure. I'm not familiar with that particular.
There are many stories, Jataka stories, but through the many stories that I've read, the name of the king that was there was the King Brahmadatta, and the Bodhisattva was born in different forms during that time.
Oh, is it?
Which means that the king has a long life.
I'm not too sure whether the king was a human in the first place. Because if it's non-human, if it's in the Deva worlds or the Brahma worlds, then very long life lah.
Oh, but here it said that at time in Varanasi there was this Brahmadatta was king, and then the Bodhisattva took rebirth, and the stories that the Bodhisattva took rebirth as a monkey, even a goose, or even a person, and usually is during the reign, I think.
If it's of different life forms and even as a human being, sometimes they have very short lives. So the king of course must have a long life, but there's a monkey or some lower being, then their lives are short, or they got killed along the way and then they're born again, happen to be in the same locality lah. Possible lah, but I'm not familiar with the stories regarding Brahmadatta. That's just my hypothesis.
I just don't comprehend that this particular king can live so long that the Bodhisattva could appear in so many lifetimes in the reign of the certain king. It's me a question.
Good question. Fortunately, it doesn't appear in the exam. Let me check out some of those Jataka stories regarding Brahmadatta.
Okay, thank you.
Brother Nanda, there's a question in the text.
Oh, is it?
In the chat.
Chat in the chat, sorry.
Did Rahula pass away due to sickness?
Oh, okay. I'm not too sure. I haven't come across what they call sources that mention how Rahula passed away. Even now, those who live to very old age, like Venerable Ananda and Maha Kassapa, there's no mention of them having diseases. But even the Buddha had his own illness. Of course, the Mahaparinibbana Sutta mentions that he gave up his life force. That means he doesn't want to continue anymore. But even around that time also, there was already indication that the Buddha was having certain, not just old age issues, but he had a lot of abdominal pains and ailments already. So, Venerable Sariputta, the story about Venerable Sariputta dying in his the room where he was born in his mother's house, mentioned that he was in pain also. So what kind of pain, I am also not sure. Whether there are any details as to describe what kind of pain, which part of the body, and so on. Some of the 20th century doctors, that means modern doctors now, those with MBBS or higher, have tried to diagnose the Buddha's ailments, and based on the various suttas that talk about the symptoms mentioned in the suttas, and they have come across some mention of some intestinal problems where by today's standards is called very, very, very painful. And if you had that condition like the Buddha, you will need morphine treatment to tahan the pain. But the Buddha was still walking around bearing the pain mindfully. Okay, this is some of the modern, but Rahula, regarding that question, I can't answer because I haven't come across any mention of him getting sick and then passing away. But since he died young, there are two ways. One is there's a possibility that those days, other than you passing away from disease, you can also be killed by a cow. Remember the story in fact, two stories. One is the leper, that's not the story I told you, where the Buddha was looking at that leper who was at the back of the crowd. He talked to him, he attained the first stage of sainthood, Sotapan, and a short while, then he came forward to the Buddha, paid respect, and he declared that he will become take refuge in the three jewels, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. And a short while later, he left the presence of the Buddha, and he was killed by a cow. And another sutta, Bahiya Sutta, that's what I mentioned, the one who got enlightened the fastest, after getting enlightened in the middle of Jalan Raya, when the Buddha was going on alms round, he walked away because he wanted to become a monk under the Buddha. And the Buddha said, you need to have your requisites, your robes and all this kind of thing. So he went out to look for robes. When he went away from the Buddha, he was killed by a cow. So he's an Arahat, although he's not a monk, he's an Arahat, but he was killed by a cow. So in those days, I guess cows are very dangerous. Okay, so I am not too sure about Rahula. I haven't come across any mention of what are the circumstances in which Rahula passed away. Now, in the case of Venerable Ananda, he knew that he was getting very, very old. His time was up. And the interesting thing is that two groups of communities wanted his relics. Now, he hasn't died yet, and he wanted his relics, which is called fun, I think. But anyway, they wanted, so he decided he didn't want if he died in country A, then country B will fight with country A to get the relics. If he died in country B and country, then they will two will fight. So he decided to use his psychic powers, float up in the middle of a river, and there he, using his mind, he shall we say, cremated himself and split his body into two. One piece went to country A, the other piece went to country B. So keep the two sides happy. That is what the story says, which you will read in the attached notes now. I think previously I sent to you already. I'm not sure if it's mentioned there already or not.
Yeah, got.
So that kind of story. So there's no mention of him getting ill or killed by a cow or anything. He willfully do it. No problem. Okay.
Thank you, Brother Ananda.
Yeah, welcome. Okay, so if nothing else, so we'll see you next week on this qualities of the Arya Sangha.